site for additional facts.
Cold weather will be here before you know it. At the same time, power outages are on the rise. So here's an important question. If the power goes out when it's really cold, do you have a way to stay warm? If not, you've got to check out the Vesta off-grid space heater from My Patriot Supply. It's a compact, portable space heater that doesn't use electricity. It runs on something called canned heat, which is an indoor safe fuel. It's completely off-grid, and it can heat up a 200 square foot room in a matter of minutes. With a Vesta stashed in your closet, you can rest easy, knowing you and your family will stay warm, even if the power goes out. Plus, it doubles as a stove to boil water or cook food without electricity or propane. The best part is, you can get a Vesta and a bunch of other free gifts when you order the Winter Prep Special from My Patriot Supply. Just go to mypatriotsupply.com to see everything included. This offer won't last long, and neither will this nice fall weather, so go to mypatriotsupply.com today. That's mypatriotsupply.com.
Broadcasting from the Kanowski-Bresney studios comes the radio medium Laura Lee Show.
I feel like you had to let him go.
Yes, it is. He was on life support.
You've taken on the burden for his passing. Is that true?
That is right.
There's something to do with a Barbie doll.
He used to stick the old school Barbie dolls in the cake.
Oh my God, you're giving me goosebumps right now.
The radio medium Laura Lee Show. Tune into your spirit every Tuesday at 4 p.m.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM, Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
Mark Vonner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark is a career military man, having served for nearly 20 years, and we are so thrilled to have him and his company as a key partner and the presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston. Mark comes from a proud military family, including his father Victor and his brother Timmy. Mark talks often about how serving his country was one of the greatest achievements of his life, and that's one of the key reasons that he chooses to give back to this special community. Mark is honored to continue his legacy that his father started when he built Veterans Development Corporation. Working to help many disabled veterans and their families has become a lifelong goal for Mark, and it's why he's taken the time to fully support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. You can join Mark Vonner and Veterans Development Corporation and help our great American heroes today by making a donation or becoming a sponsor. Simply visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we've got a guide available this month titled Understanding Required Minimum Distributions. Mike, a lot of changes in the RMD landscape. When do people have to take RMDs from either IRAs or Roths?
How old are you?
Me personally?
So this does start changing now. It is currently 73 for a lot of folks. For some younger folks, it's actually now going to be 75 years old for your traditional IRAs and 401ks. And so that started at 70 and a half just a few years ago. And so this is a new set of rules for a lot of people.
When you look at how the penalties evolved, this is one area that's actually gotten a little bit more lenient in recent years. And so that's something where if you are new to RMDs, there are some incentives if you've missed one to get that squared away as soon as possible.
There are, but, key takeaway, understand these rules and don't miss your required minimum distribution, because there are still penalties for something that, again, is completely avoidable. Yes, the penalties used to be bigger. They are less stringent now and a bit smaller, but it is still unnecessary extra taxes and fees that you will end up paying if you do miss your required minimum distribution. So get our guide and learn a little bit more about how all of this works.
Folks, the guide is titled Understanding Required Minimum Distributions, and there are two ways that you can request it. The first is by calling 800-393-4001. The second is by visiting armstrongadvisory.com. Again, that number is 800-393-4001, or you can request it online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We pride ourselves on being able to support veterans in their time of greatest need, ensuring they receive the protections they deserve. For over 100 years, the DAV of Massachusetts has helped thousands of veterans with housing, transportation, and medical assistance, and you can help too. Please visit dav5k.boston and make a donation today. That's dav5k.boston.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you here on a wonderful day here on the Financial Exchange.
Wonderful.
Mike, we've got the CPI report for September. The wait was long. The wait was difficult.
Our government data withdrawals are over. I've stopped shaking.
I got my fix, and I'm good,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, CPI data for the month of September came in. This was originally supposed to be published in the middle of last week. It was obviously not published then because of the government shutdown. And early last week, the BLS folks who are responsible for this were called back because the September collection had basically, it had been completed because the government did not shut down until October 1st. They just had to take the completed data and actually plug it into their stuff in order to get the numbers. So they came back last week, worked over the last 2 weeks, and today, this morning, we got the CPI data for September. What did it show?
Calmer than anticipated price increases is what it showed from a headline perspective. So getting into the details here. Year over year, prices are firmly up 3%. It doesn't matter if you're stripping out food and energy or including it. Prices are pretty firmly up 3% compared to this time last year. On a month-over-month increase, we came in at 0.3% on headline prices, 0.2% on core prices. Again, stripping out the food and energy impact there, you get to a little bit lower. This is a big relief to markets who are anticipating, again, like I mentioned, more like 0.4% monthly increase on the headline CPI and a slightly higher year-over-year number. It also comes in the context of August, where the pace of increases was fairly high, right? We had 0.4% increase in the month of August, and this came down from that rough patch there. So what I'm comfortable saying is that this firmly beat expectations, and markets are reacting to that, and it is a level of inflation that the Fed has publicly stated they are pretty comfortable with. It is also very firmly in a range that I think most Americans aren't terribly comfortable with. That 3% level long-term is also not the Fed's goal, and I don't think they should be comfortable with it long-term. But for the short term, they've pretty publicly stated, look, if it's right here, then we're going to keep doing what we think we should be doing, which is lowering rates because of concerns about the jobs market instead of being concerned about price levels.
So here's the interesting thing. Like you talk about, markets are excited about this. Equity markets are.
Yep.
S&P 500 up almost 1%, NASDAQ up more than 1%, Dow up almost 1%. Great. The bond market doesn't really care about this in any meaningful fashion. And what I mean by that is the 10-year Treasury today is up 1.2 basis points. Now, that's not a meaningful move in any way, shape, or form. It's basically flat is what you can say. And so here's how I am thinking about this in, the immediate aftermath of this, because obviously, we could, see how this plays out over the next couple of years. But the immediate aftermath of this report is, okay, for equity markets, this takes off the table the idea that the Fed is going to have to, that the Fed won't be able to cut the next couple months because of high inflation.
Yeah.
Especially, White House came out today and said, guys, we're probably not going to be getting an October CPI reading because the data is not being collected.
Yep.
Got it. So if you're not going to get an October one, which means that's not showing up in November, odds are, hey, there's a chance you get the November one in December, but you might not get another CPI until 2026. Possible. So in the, immediate future, we've got a Fed meeting next week and another one mid-December. It's pretty hard to see there being any data that comes out in the interim suggesting, hey, you can't cut because of high inflation.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what could actually spike inflation and would the Fed react to it. The only thing I can think about would be energy prices.
And the Fed wouldn't react to it.
The Fed wouldn't react.
No. So I think we are pretty darn close to solidifying additional 0.25% cuts at a minimum in the next two meetings. But beyond that, if inflation continues to run at 3% and the 10-year Treasury right now is sitting at 4%, there's not really anything in this report that says, yeah, you can get interest rates down to, 1% on the Fed funds rate or anything like that, or that you need to get interest rates down there.
Certainly not. And it's also really, again, to your point about the bond market not moving, what is this going to do to long-term rates? Seemingly not much.
No, not much here. It's, okay, great. You've got inflation that's pretty consistently running 3%-ish. Okay, we'll take 4% on the 10 years, what the bond market is telling you.
Meaning we'll take 6.25% on mortgages.
Correct. You're going to hang out in that range. Now, the problem there, 6.25% isn't enough to juice the housing market. We know this, by the way, because we've seen what's going on with
the housing market.
The housing market, and specifically mortgage applications. Wednesday, we got the Mortgage Purchase Index from the Mortgage Bankers Association, the MBA, if you will. This is the preferred MBA, not the MBAs that get turned out of business schools.
Got it.
And then say, hey, fire all of the people with the institutional knowledge because we can get someone cheaper or AI in there. I just had to get that in. It's the end of the week. You gotta make these count.
Yeah.
So here's what we saw from mortgage purchase applications this week. They declined about 6% week over week, and right now are running at the same place that they were in January. Mike, is January typically a hot time for the housing market?
Not as far as I know.
No, it's usually pretty cold. So I think that overall, when we look at this, the message that I am getting is twofold on housing. Number one, it's affordability concerns. But the other thing, we cover quite often, Connor Sen writes for Bloomberg Opinion. He also tweets about a whole lot of stuff. And he's been kind of beating this horse. I don't know where that idiom comes from, but he's been riding this
very
topic.
Focused.
He's been riding this horse for a while now. Why would you beat a horse?
Well.
It's already dead. Stop.
Right. He's been riding this horse for a while now that the problem with housing isn't just affordability. Part of the reason why people buy housing, either for themselves or as an investment, is because prices are expected to go up.
Okay.
If you have large parts of the housing market now where prices are falling, falling prices are a signal to buyers, hey, maybe this isn't the best time to buy. Think about this in the context of the financial crisis. Prices started falling in 2006, a year before the subprime issues even showed up.
Sure.
But housing activity slowed over the next couple of years. It wasn't just, oh, hey, people don't want to lend. It's people see, like, you hear the stories about, a friend who bought a house and then had to sell and take a 5% loss on it. And you say, gee, I don't want that to be me. And that happens more and more. And basically, Connor's point is, look, until you get to a place where the affordability concerns are such that prices aren't falling in large parts of the country for housing, it's tough to see housing activity picking up because pricing informs why people buy, either as an investment or as a personal decision. Part of the reason why people want to buy homes is because they think they're going to go up in value. And so, yeah, if you're stuck with 6.25% mortgage rates and falling prices in Florida, Colorado, Texas, like big housing markets, it's kind of hard to see housing, having any kind of major recovery. It's also hard to see it falling apart because there are also parts of the country where prices are still rising.
Right.
So, kind of messy on that side.
Back to the inflation report, the reason that we got it. The reason that we had this inflation report in spite of a government shutdown was all because of Social Security. So going to that topic for a moment here, the Social Security Administration has now published the 2026 COLA. It's coming in at 2.8% is your cost of living adjustment for 2026. So practically speaking, what does that mean? The average Social Security recipient receiving $2,005 in 2025, we'll see an increase of $56 per month in that Social Security payment. On the other hand, detracting from that, Medicare Part B premiums expected to rise $21.50 in 2026. So again, for vast majority of Social Security recipients, that premium is coming right out of that Social Security payment. And so if you're making the average, you're seeing a little bit less than half of that increase go towards Medicare. If you're making less than that average Social Security premium, then a bit more of it is going towards that Medicare cost, which is eating up a big chunk of it. So I'm thinking about what the break-even point is there. A little bit less than $1,000 a month in payments means all of it would go to that Medicare increase.
Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we're talking tariffs and earnings after this.
There's only one show that follows Wall Street's continued volatility. Keep it here all morning long on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. The U.S. Virgin Islands aren't just stunning, they're thriving and continue to be one of the hottest spots for vacationers in the Caribbean. New cruise port upgrades, better air connections, and a sharper focus on cultural experiences are putting the islands back on the map for travelers seeking something special. St. Thomas is your cruise hub, known for duty-free shopping and the world-famous Megan's Bay. St. John is pure escape with national park hikes, secluded beaches, and tropical tranquility. St. Croix brings the history with colonial architecture, old sugar mills, and vibrant coral reefs. Visit one island or all three and get plenty of pampering, undisturbed nature, and a vibe like no other, all jammed into one vacation. With easy travel from New England, no passport required, and no money to exchange, paradise is closer than you think. This fall, plan your getaway and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands in America's Caribbean. Visit usvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Turning 70 isn't just another birthday. It's when the clock starts ticking on your retirement withdrawals. At age 73 or at age 75 if you were born in 1960 or later, you need to start withdrawing money from your IRA. They're called required minimum distributions, and missing one can mean big penalties. Taking the RMDs at the wrong time can also spike your tax bill. Even the type of account matters, since your IRA and 401k follow different rules, which could get confusing fast. Our new guide is called Understanding Required Minimum Distributions. It breaks the process down in simple terms so you know when to start, how much to take, and ways to manage the tax impact. Request your copy today by calling 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001 or ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Services. Cushing & Dolan want to help you avoid costly mistakes when it comes to gifting assets to your children. Their brand new guide, Making the Most of Gifting Assets, shares crucial strategies to help you protect your legacy and your family. Many people think gifting is always a good thing, but if it's done the wrong way, it can create real headaches. Even well-intentioned gifts can cause complications if your children are dealing with financial pressure or legal issues like a divorce. The guide also explains how a major gift, like a home or vacation property, could come with hidden tax consequences that may impact your entire estate plan. Before you make any big moves, arm yourself with the facts in this new guide from Cushing & Dolan. Call 866-848-5699 right now to get your copy. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Text us 617-362-1385 with your comments and questions about today's show, and let us know what you think about the stories we're covering. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, this year's DAV 5K is sold out, but you can still help our great American heroes. The race is Saturday, November 8th at Castle Island, and you can visit dav5k.boston to make a donation of any amount to support our troops. Your gifts help fund free rides to medical appointments for veterans and the nation's first DAV-led housing initiative, providing homes for single veterans and veteran families. Go to dav5k.boston and make your donation today.
Mike, we get a piece from the New York Times. It's titled, Companies Have Shielded Buyers from Tariffs, but Not for Long.
I'm done with this story.
I am too.
Tell me when we see it, because I've reported on this 15 times since April.
And look, here's the thing. You are seeing it showing up in areas that do not have widespread tariff exemptions. If you want to look just in the latest CPI report, look at audio equipment just as an example. Audio equipment is one of the only pieces of electronics that has no exemptions out there on a tariff from any of the tariffs that are out there. And if you look at where it is year over year, it's closing in on 14% year over year price change for audio equipment.
Sure.
And so it's like, yeah, there's no exemption on this stuff, and so prices are moving up. It's really, really clear. I mean, if you want to look at other areas where this is happening, another place where, look, we don't produce any of it domestically, and what's happening with it because of tariffs? Coffee. Coffee prices are up 18% year over year.
My God.
Most of it in the last couple months because of the new Brazil tariffs. And so, you look at July was up, here we go, roasted coffee, 2.3%. August was up 3.6%.
Sure.
You can point to tariffs applied, this price went up because there's no exemption. For all the other stuff where you're like, hey, is it going to happen or not? Yeah, there definitely are companies that, are still working through old inventory, and they're going to pass it through when it happens. And, I'm tired of being like, oh, is it going to show up or not? It either is or it isn't. And if it's not right now, odds are you're not going to get too much more showing up in the future. I'm kind of done with it, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't know about the last statement, not too much more of it will show up in the future. I guess it depends on how all this stuff goes, but it's been 6 months, folks.
Well, you are seeing broad-based goods inflation at this point. Like, I don't know why we're trying to pretend that it's just like it hasn't happened.
Right.
If you look at non-durable goods, in the last year, they've gone from almost 5% deflation to 2% inflation. That's a 7% shift that you've seen. What else are you expecting?
Crisis.
You know, like
pets heads. That's the piece that I'm getting fed up with is these stories get printed on the premise that it's going to break our financial system, and I think the evidence is out on that one.
Now,
it's not this. The inflation from goods is not what's going to break things. What could break things would be negotiations breaking down, and we can't source rare earth materials, or
if you had 100% tariffs on China from here going,
sure.
Yeah, this starts to become problematic, which is what markets were freaked out about in April, was you had that in place and there wasn't the sense that that was going to be something that was capitulated at the point.
The narrative on April 2nd was not that we're going to end up with, where are we, 14% average effective tariffs, do you think?
In that ballpark.
The story there was 37.
Right.
It was 3x where we ended up landing. So, of course, markets were freaking out at that point in time. We've landed at a place that is a lot lower than that. It might actually be 12 where we are right now.
I haven't seen any updates because we're not getting government data now on what's being collected and everything.
And so, yeah, we are seeing it. It's part of why you can't get inflation much down below 3%. We're going to continue to see it. I think the stories about the individual businesses that are facing it and how they are reacting to it are fascinating from a business perspective. But don't tell me it's going to be world-ending right now, because it's been 6 months and it hasn't been.
Right. It's I'm tired of, reading the pieces of, well, just wait until like this. No, like I'm not just going to keep like waiting for this to happen. I'm not saying that the tariffs are good, bad, or ugly. What I am saying is you're seeing the effects or you're not. In audio equipment, they're showing up. In coffee, they're showing up. Are those the only two industries where businesses are like, yeah, pass this on? Yeah. And everyone else is like, no, we can't pass this on. Right. We are not coffee or audio equipment manufacturers, and so we can't pass the tariffs on. Like, no, like, the businesses are going to try to do what they need to do to maintain their margins. Sometimes that's going to be raising prices. Sometimes it's going to be cutting headcount. And
other times it's going to be pressuring suppliers.
Yes.
So
we're seeing all these things here.
Audio equipment and coffee, that's literally my job. Great.
I know.
That's true.
I feel for you.
A lot of coffee.
It really, on both sides, dissuades you from, when you're having a bad day, throwing a cup of coffee at the audio equipment.
Tucker wakes up at 4 a.m. and spends all of his day working with audio equipment. I mean, what two products are more important to his well-being?
There aren't any. It's devastating.
Trying to think of anything else that I've seen. Let's see, what else is up big in the last year? Oh, utility gas service, up 11.7%.
Not because of tariffs.
Well, we need the heat. We're getting into winter. No, that's not because of tariffs. Let's see. Let's talk a little bit about earnings, because I feel like earnings have been fine this week, but you get this piece in the Wall Street Journal, strong earnings reassure jittery data-deprived investors. There hasn't been anything bad in earnings this week, but I'm not looking at this earnings set being like, wow, what a knockout. You're seeing some small beats. The beats that we're seeing are smaller than they typically are, about 1/3% compared to normally a 1 to 2% beat. And so there's nothing in earnings that you see that's like, hey, things are going to fall off a cliff or there are problems. But this is just kind of a run-of-the-mill earnings season in my book, not one that is strong, as I would qualify. Like, I would have said, like, Q2 earnings was a freaking monster.
Knocked your socks off. And look, we have very big companies reporting next week, and so that narrative can shift too.
Yes.
But, Tesla wasn't anything to scream about. Netflix, some of the big companies that reported this week, not anything
Netflix missed on
all
earnings.
that special. I do think some of the small companies that have big names, Ford and GM in particular, reported pretty darn good earnings, and there's been a lot of concern about the auto sector generally over the course of the last few weeks, so I think some of that narrative helps the overall earnings story.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Ford and GM swing bigger than their actual market cap does, right? It just the name recognition does something there. But overall, earnings season has been fine, beat expectations, not quite as much as historically. Google, Apple, Amazon, Meta, Alphabet, Meta, Google, and Apple all reporting.
You can call them by their name.
I think I screwed it up twice. In any case, $10+ trillion.
Did you say Google and Alphabet?
I did. Reporting just next week.
They do have 2
alone,
share classes.
And so, this has the ability to twist and turn next week.
Quick break here. We got Wall Street Watch, and then we're talking China after this.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com. Cushing & Dolan know that gifting assets can be one of the most emotional and challenging parts of estate planning. Their new guide, Making the Most of Gifting Assets, can help you learn what to consider before making a major gift, like your primary home or a vacation property, and avoid unintended tax problems. Call 866-848-5699 to get your copy, or request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. If you're approaching your 70s, you might be thinking about slowing it down, but the IRS is just getting started. Required minimum distributions, or RMDs, kick in starting at age 73. And if you were born in 1960 or later, that number jumps to 75. RMDs are more than just a box to check. They can impact your taxes, your income plan, and even what you leave to your heirs. If not done properly, it could mean big penalties, but getting them right might help keep your money working for you. Our latest guide, Understanding RMDs, breaks down how they work, when to take them, and strategies that may make them less of a tax headache and more of a financial opportunity. Request your copy today by calling 800-393-4001 or by visiting ArmstrongAdvisory.com. That number again is 800-393-4001 or ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke, a partner with the law firm of Cushing & Dolan, with their master's in taxation. And today we're talking about the implications of gifting assets away. Todd, if you're trying to protect your assets from the cost of long-term care expenses, what are the risks in giving your assets to a child rather than transferring them to an irrevocable trust?
Yeah, it's a very big difference, right? These irrevocable trusts that we do for Medicaid purposes, first and foremost, are incomplete gifts. So you're not actually making a gift at all when you put it into these trusts. But if you give it to a child, now you've made a completed gift. So, for example, if I gave away my house, and people do it, right? You are giving away the built-in gain in that house. You now don't have any control over the house. You can't sell it and buy another one if you want to move. You need the kid's permission for all of that. Plus, if you never sell it and you die, you've trapped the built-in gain for the kids. When they go to sell it, they're going to have to pay capital gains tax. Whereas if you keep it, you can control it. get a step up in basis for the kids when they die, and still protected from the nursing home through the trust. Either way, it's going to take 5 years. But gifting isn't always the answer.
Educate yourself about the implications of gifting your assets away. Request your free copy of Todd's brand new guide called Making the Most of Gifting Assets right now by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request a copy on their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Markets have hit fresh all-time highs, with investors reacting favorably to the consumer price index posted earlier this morning, where consumer prices climbed 3% year over year, lower than expectations of 3.1%. Right now, the Dow is up 0.75%, or 349 points higher. S&P 500 also up 0.75%. NASDAQ up over 1% higher at 244 points. Russell 2000 is up 1.6%. 10-year Treasury yield is flat at 3.993%, and crude oil up about 0.5%, trading just above $62 a barrel. Procter & Gamble posted earnings ahead of the open this morning, beating street expectations, driven by higher demand for its beauty and grooming products, despite higher costs from tariffs and what its CEO called a challenging consumer and geopolitical environment. The consumer goods company reiterated its forecast for all-in sales and earnings for the fiscal year. Procter & Gamble shares are up 1%. Meanwhile, Intel shares are up 1%, but are retreating from an earlier rally after the chipmaker reported better than expected revenue as demand for its Core x86 processors for PCs recovered. Elsewhere, Ford said strong sales propelled the automaker's revenue and operating income, handily beating street estimates for the previous quarter. Ford shares are up 10%. Deckers Outdoor posted a full-year sales forecast that missed analysts' estimates. That stock is off by 13% now, and Target stock is dipping slightly after the Wall Street Journal reported the retailer plans to slash around 1,800 corporate roles as part of an effort to remake its strategy. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch.
Mike, we got two pieces here related to trade. Actually, a few of them, but one's more on oil. So I do want to take both of these kind of as they come. Let's talk Canada first, actually.
Sure.
President Trump said late yesterday that he's terminating trade negotiations with Canada. This after a television advertisement that has been airing over the last week or so, featuring the voice of Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs, was taken out by the Ontario government.
Context here, Ontario has been hit pretty hard by tariff changes. Is it Ford that relocated their plant out of Ontario? No, it's Jeep.
GM.
Okay, maybe GM did too. I saw Jeep. Some Jeep brand was being brought to Illinois from Ontario as well.
I know GM's been dealing with suppliers and everything in the region just because, look, if you know anything about Detroit, it's basically right next to Canada.
Yeah.
I always tell people, I get upset about the song. They're like, born and raised in South Detroit. There is no South Detroit. It's Canada. So neither here nor there, but kind of there. And so what do I make of this? Not much, quite honestly, in that, look, 8 months ago, seemed like things were, awfully dodgy between the U.S. and Canada. Over that subsequent 8 months, things seem to have recovered to the point, at least diplomatically, where, there was progress being made. Do I think that this is inherently going to be something that derails things from future progress? No.
Doesn't seem like it.
It could be, but we could also be sitting here 6 months from now being like, hey, they ended up getting back together after a few months, and they negotiated and hashed out some of these issues, and things were fine. So I don't really make too much of this as good, bad, or ugly. It's just, it's there, and this is kind of the state of play for the entire year.
Yep.
Quite honestly.
Canadian economy remains really bad.
Not good.
pretty much in a recession. Unemployment rate, I think at last check, was up over 5%, maybe closing in on 6%. So not a good economy there, and I think wants to see some progress on this stuff, but also a bit in shambles over the tariffs.
Then you get this piece from, is this Market Watch? No, this is CNN? Yeah, sure. This is CNN. You get this piece talking about U.S.-China trade negotiations in advance of President Trump and President Xi potentially meeting on, I think the date now is October 30th, that they're talking about meeting after the big Pacific kind of trade meeting and everything. And it's talking about, what's at stake. And quite honestly, I think there's a difference between what's at stake and what is likely to be decided, with the former being much greater than the latter, in that...
Sure. What's at stake is...
There's a ton at stake.
Trade and rare earths and national security and all very dramatic things.
I don't really believe you're going to get anything conclusive done. And the reason why is that China uses the same strategy over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And it's exactly what I just did.
Delay.
They just talk and delay and run out the clock.
Yep.
That is
They're
the
really
whole
good at it.
It's the whole ball game. Even in President Trump's first term. Remember, it took like 3 years to get this Phase 1 trade deal, which was basically a purchase order from China for about $200 billion worth of U.S. goods.
Mostly agricultural.
They then did not actually purchase any of them.
Yeah.
And so this is why, for, all of the hype and excitement about, is there going to be a meeting between, President Trump and President Xi? There might be, there might not be. But are we actually going to see meaningful progress on any of these issues? I don't really think so, because the Chinese government consistently just runs out the clock on this stuff.
No, if you're the Chinese, you want to give the U.S. as little as possible that will still prevent them from escalating dramatically.
And I'm also, again, I was talking about this last week, I'm more convinced than ever that Xi is now kind of looking at his own mortality in the next, 10 to 15 years, and the negative demographics in China with a shrinking population and specifically a shrinking workforce, and saying, this is my time to get what China deserves, in his opinion. And so I don't think he's just going to be like, yeah, like, sure, have all the rare earths.
It's very clear to me that, again, with all the China and U.S. trade talks, I'm with you. I don't think much progress gets made. We need something on the scale of the CHIPS Act when it comes to rare earths to be done by Congress. I think
it needs to be more than just executive actions.
Yeah, I think the idea that the U.S. government's just going to take stakes in mining companies and pick winners there and do so without market interference is kind of a false premise. I don't think it's going to work terribly well, and I am not any sort of expert on these rare earths and what the price levels are that you need in order to get them out of the ground in the U.S., but an open free market for that stuff is not going to work given what China's capable of selling them for.
Yeah.
And so something on the scale of...
And we've seen that, by the way. Like a couple of years ago, you had a few different places that tried to ramp up rare earth production outside of China. And China just said, okay, we're cutting our prices by like 50%.
Yep.
And they never got off the ground.
Right.
You have to... like.
It doesn't all need to be here in the U.S., but I would see... I would view it as price levels on domestically produced stuff and then other price levels on non-Chinese produced stuff.
I think, like, if I'm just, spitballing, as I'm inclined to on this stuff, in terms of U.S. demand, I think 30 to 40% of that demand needs to be satisfied by domestic production, and the rest you can source from countries that are friendlier than China. But it still is going to require effort to make sure that production happens. This is stuff that we talk about a lot. It might not be in the best interest economically to set price floors on, producing these kinds of things, but it is in the best interest from a national security perspective both because of quite literally the fact that this stuff needs to go into defense projects like, missiles and fighter jets and stuff like that, and the fact that, hey, it goes into everyday stuff like, credit card readers and windshield wipers, and this stuff is everywhere.
What I hope we don't see is a further continuation of what we've been seeing over the last several years and administrations of the government taking stakes in companies. I really have a lot of hesitation about what that spells for the future, what the future administrations are going to do with those shares that they hold, and I just think there is no compelling evidence that the U.S. government is capable of picking individual winner companies.
Let's take a quick break. When we return, let's talk a little bit about Ford's earnings. We'll discuss them. We're also going to talk about Target when we come back.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Like our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Turning 70 isn't just another birthday. It's when the clock starts ticking on your retirement withdrawals. At age 73 or at age 75 if you were born in 1960 or later, you need to start withdrawing money from your IRA. They're called required minimum distributions, and missing one can mean big penalties. Taking the RMDs at the wrong time can also spike your tax bill. Even the type of account matters, since your IRA and 401k follow different rules, which could get confusing fast. Our new guide is called Understanding Required Minimum Distributions. It breaks the process down in simple terms so you know when to start, how much to take, and ways to manage the tax impact. Request your copy today by calling 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001 or ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Cushing & Dolan know that gifting assets can be one of the most emotional and challenging parts of estate planning. Their new guide, Making the Most of Gifting Assets, can help you learn what to consider before making a major gift, like your primary home or a vacation property, and avoid unintended tax problems. Call 866-848-5699 to get your copy, or request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
The U.S. Virgin Islands aren't just stunning, they're thriving and continue to be one of the hottest spots for vacationers in the Caribbean. New cruise port upgrades, better air connections, and a sharper focus on cultural experiences are putting the islands back on the map for travelers seeking something special. St. Thomas is your cruise hub, known for duty-free shopping and the world-famous Megan's Bay. St. John is pure escape with national park hikes, secluded beaches, and tropical tranquility. St. Croix brings the history with colonial architecture, old sugar mills, and vibrant coral reefs. Visit one island or all three and get plenty of pampering, undisturbed nature, and a vibe like no other, all jammed into one vacation. With easy travel from New England, no passport required, and no money to exchange, paradise is closer than you think. This fall, plan your getaway and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands in America's Caribbean. Visit usvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
Miss any of the show? The Financial Exchange Show podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Let's talk a little bit about Ford. They reported earnings yesterday, and this is one of those companies that did have a really nice quarter for earnings, and it comes on the back of Ford really having some questions in the last year or two that they've tried to answer, specifically in terms of they had committed to this EV strategy that they then have rightly decided, okay, we kind of overcommitted to the EV strategy. We need to, maybe
back that up.
We maybe need to not produce quite as many as we intended to. And what they are seeing here is look, it's when you talk about Ford, it's basically one model that pulls the whole thing at this point. It's the F-150.
Yep.
And so the fact is they're seeing good numbers there. SUVs are moving well as well. And they're trying to actually boost production of the F-Series pickups by about 50,000 vehicles, or about 6% in 2026.
If they can find any aluminum.
Well, you can always find aluminum. The question is at what cost?
Yeah. So both Ford and GM had a pretty similar story this quarter, right? As far as I'm concerned, they both made a boatload of money on trucks and SUVs. And frankly, I think it plays right into the same exact story we've been telling from other big companies, whether it's Delta, Marriott, Ford, General Motors. People with money are still spending.
Yep.
And the flip side of that, right, if you're looking for, Delta and Marriott, if you missed it, reported that their luxury brands or cabins were boosting all their sales, whereas their lower-end brands were struggling. They were seeing declines year over year in sales or just very modest growth. I don't know that GM and Ford really break out their different lines, and I haven't seen anything on like what the really cheap vehicles are selling for.
No.
But on the other hand, in the auto sector itself, we've had a bankruptcy of a subprime lender, a bankruptcy of an auto parts supplier, and a threatened bankruptcy of a second subprime lender, PrimaLend. So I see it as this, multi-pronged thing. Mainly, GM and Ford, their sales are driven by high-income consumers, because if you are making less than $70,000 a year as a household, you're not, by and large, buying a new Ford or GM vehicle.
Yeah, Look, I am not a subprime auto lender myself, but my guess is it's probably pretty hard for someone with subprime credit to qualify for a payment on an $80,000 F-150. It's probably much more on the $20,000 used RAV4 where that transaction is taking place. But I admit to not knowing. Maybe you can qualify as, a borrower with a 630 credit score for an $80,000 car loan. I don't know.
You shouldn't.
It's the problems that we're seeing in the auto sector are not showing up as it relates to manufacturers adjusting their production as a result of it.
Yeah.
It seems to be much more concentrated in two areas right now, which is used vehicles and parts.
Yep.
Like, that seems to be where most of the problem is. And we'll just have to keep an eye on it and see where things go.
The U.S. Virgin Islands aren't just stunning, they're thriving and continue to be one of the hottest spots for vacationers in the Caribbean. New cruise, port upgrades, better air connections, and a sharper focus on cultural experiences have put the islands back on the map for travelers seeking something special. St. Thomas is your cruise hub, known for duty-free shopping, and the world-famous Magens Bay. St. John is pure escape with national park hikes, secluded beaches, and tropical tranquility. And St. Croix brings the history with colonial architecture, old sugar mills, and vibrant coral reefs. Visit one island or all three and get plenty of pampering, undisturbed nature, and a vibe like no other, all jammed into one vacation. With easy travel from New England, no passport required, and no money to exchange, paradise is closer than you think. This fall, plan your getaway and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands in America's Caribbean. Visit usvi.com and book your trip today. That's visit usvi.com.
Target is going to be laying off 1,000 corporate employees and cutting 800 open roles. It's going to cut their staff by approximately 8% as a result of this, with most of the cuts happening domestically. I'm not entirely surprised here. Target's been having some trouble over the last couple years trying to stay competitive in the retail environment. And so if you are trying to maintain margins and reshape your business, headcount reductions are often what you end up seeing here.
Incoming CEO Michael Fiddelk. I'm going to go with Fiddelk on that pronunciation. Quote, "The truth is the complexity we've created over time has been holding us back. Too many layers and overlapping work have slowed decisions, making it harder to bring ideas to life." Maybe. We'll see. I don't know that an 1,800-person layoff is going to really be the thing that turns around Target in the near future.
You can't grow through, layoffs. I know that sounds like a Yogi Berra statement, and maybe he said that, but he probably didn't. But ultimately, look, you got to figure out how to get to sales growth. Why do people choose either your stores or your online platform?
Yep.
There used to be a reason, and that reason that people believed was, hey, it's Target, it's nicer stuff than Walmart, but I still get great pricing.
These days, only time I'm going in is because I am looking for a Starbucks and I don't realize that it's inside a Target, and so I accidentally walk in.
My wife goes in occasionally.
Yeah.
She
Same here.
It's mostly because the place where she takes my daughters for swimming lessons is right next to a Target, and if they have 20 minutes to kill, they'll pop in there and just walk around.
Yeah.
Other than that, it just exists. It's a retailer without a compelling reason for being right now. And look, they can find them. I remember all of the questions about Best Buy 10, 15 years ago, and hey, can Best Buy survive? And they figured out how to make it work.
I think they either need to double down on grocery or get rid of it.
Target,
their grocery stuff is a mess.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Oh.
They're not making strides in grocery, it seems like.
Thought you were talking Best Buy. I'm like, I didn't know they did grocery.
Like Target, just they don't have enough to fill your actual basket. They have some interesting, compelling brands that they own, but they either need to double down and actually do what Walmart's doing and offer a full grocery store, or just get rid of it entirely.
I go to a Walmart and look at the grocery selection there, and I'm like,
impressed.
This is legit.
Yeah.
This is a vast change from where it was 10, 15 years ago, and certainly for the better. And those of you who listen know that I can be a little discerning, especially when it comes to the produce, but you see some good stuff there. Let's take a quick break. Hour 2 coming up. We're going to be talking Argentina and much more.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine, no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense. Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, the grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
The U.S. Virgin Islands aren't just stunning, they're thriving and continue to be one of the hottest spots for vacationers in the Caribbean. New cruise port upgrades, better air connections, and a sharper focus on cultural experiences are putting the islands back on the map for travelers seeking something special. St. Thomas is your cruise hub, known for duty-free shopping and the world-famous Megan's Bay. St. John is pure escape with national park hikes, secluded beaches, and tropical tranquility. St. Croix brings the history with colonial architecture, old sugar mills, and vibrant coral reefs. Visit one island or all 3 and get plenty of pampering, undisturbed nature, and a vibe like no other, all jammed into one vacation. With easy travel from New England, no passport required, and no money to exchange, paradise is closer than you think. This fall, plan your getaway and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands in America's Caribbean. Visit usvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Mark Vonner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark is a career military man, having served for nearly 20 years, and we are so thrilled to have him and his company as a key partner and the presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston. Mark comes from a proud military family, including his father Victor and his brother Timmy. Mark talks often about how serving his country was one of the greatest achievements of his life, and that's one of the key reasons that he chooses to give back to this special community. Mark is honored to continue his legacy that his father started when he built Veterans Development Corporation. Working to help many disabled veterans and their families has become a lifelong goal for Mark, and it's why he's taken the time to fully support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. You can join Mark Vonner and Veterans Development Corporation and help our great American heroes today by making a donation or becoming a sponsor. Simply visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and our guide this month is titled Understanding Required Minimum Distributions. Mike, one area with some big changes the last couple of years has been RMDs as it relates to inherited IRAs. What is the lay of the land today?
Yeah, so critical things that you need to know is that for most inheritors that are not spouses, so that's your starting point. If you are not married to the person who passed away, you are most likely subject to a out in 10 rule. What has also changed is that you're required to satisfy two different rules for most folks. Again, you are required to empty that inherited IRA within a decade. You also have annual required minimum distributions based on life expectancy. So it is really complicated now for inheritors.
How does that potentially influence how a parent may leave assets to surviving children in terms of taking their incomes into account?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, it is going to concentrate this additional income in a decade time period after you're gone. And so it adds a little bit of complexity in terms of that estate planning, right? Maybe I've got two kids. One's a very high income earner. One is a little bit lower. Do I potentially reshape my beneficiaries so that they both receive the same amount, maybe after taxes? A lot of complex planning you can do there.
The guide this month is titled Understanding Required Minimum Distributions. The two ways that you can request it are by calling 800-393-4001 or by visiting armstrongadvisory.com. Again, that number is 800-393-4001, or you can request it at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you here on a Friday this morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We received the first government data of October, what will be the most likely only government economic data from October. We received the September CPI that came in a little bit better than expected. Still at 0.3% month over month on the headline, but 0.2% month over month on core, both running at 3% over the last 12 months. And this report largely compiled because Social Security needed to calculate the cost of living adjustment for 2026, which is now going to be 2.8% based on the results of this report. So if you're listening and you happen to be someone who's collecting Social Security now or trying to figure out, hey, what do benefits look like for next year, is a 2.8% cost of living adjustment for 2026.
Indeed.
So there's that. Taking a look around markets and what is moving today, we've got equity markets showing an awful lot of green on them right now. The S&P 500 up 51 points to a new all-time high of 6790. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 403 points, and the NASDAQ Composite up 222, so about a 0.75% to 1% rally taking place in equity markets. 10-year Treasury not really budging in any way, shape, or form. It's at 3.991%. That is 0.2 of a basis point above where it was yesterday. Not very exciting, but that's fine when you're talking bonds. Dollar index is up 4 cents. Well, it's not really 4 cents. The dollar index is up 0.04%, we'll call it, to 98.76. We've got gold down 0.25%, or about $10 an ounce, to $41.34. And crude oil, West Texas Intermediate, is sitting there right now up 45 cents a barrel to 62.24. The AAA national average for gas prices currently sits at 306 and 0.8 of a cent. That's down about 10 cents from a month ago, but up about 2 cents from a week ago.
The bond market piece, I think, could use additional context here, Chuck, because we do have equity markets hitting new all-time highs, I think, on some release of concern that the inflation report that we got this morning could have hindered the Fed's ability to cut rates, or at least added some questionability into it. It didn't do that, so equity markets rallying on the news. What investors are seemingly not doing is betting that long-term rates will need to come down in any meaningful way. And I think that's an important caveat here. They are fully buying that the Fed is going to cut rates. They are not buying that there's going to be any sustained pressure on longer-term interest rates, and therefore the things that really matter to everyday consumers, we're not seeing any shakeup on those rates right now, and we haven't since the Fed underwent their rate-cutting cycle that we're in right now.
Yeah, I mean, let's explore this just a little bit, just because I think it's kind of interesting. And if we look at let's look at the 10-year Treasury.
Sure.
And then let's look at CPI. And actually, I'm going to do one other thing. I just want to build a little spread here between the two. So we're going to do the 10-year Treasury rate. I'm doing this in real time, so we'll see if this ends up working. And we're going to compare that to CPI year over year. And let's see what we get for the spread. Okay, perfect. Here we go. So if you look historically at the difference between the 10-year Treasury, so take the 10-year Treasury and subtract from it CPI inflation year over year.
So right now you'd get 1 or thereabouts.
1.147 is what you have right now. If you look at the historical average for which we have data, which the data I have goes back to 1962.
Long ways.
63 years of data, so it's a decent chunk. The average spread between 10-year Treasury and CPI is 2%. There's generally a 2% difference. The 10-year Treasury generally runs 2% higher than CPI. There are times where that's not the case. It's generally during times where inflation spikes. So as an example, first big round of inflation in the early 1970s, in September of 74, inflation was running 12%. 10-year Treasury was at 8%. If you go to the second round of inflation, late 1970s, early 80s, inflation in May of 80 was running 14%, 10-year Treasury was at 10%. The reason being, you don't expect those things to last that long, and so you wouldn't expect the 10-year to need to be that high. The biggest gap that we've seen the other way was in the early 80s, June of 84, 10-year Treasury was still at 13%. It had kept rising, after. Inflation was down to 4%.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, especially when you look at, kind of the modern economy, which I'll say, effectively starts, post-1990, you start getting into the internet and more globalization and things like that, you generally were around, anywhere from 1.5% to 4.5% was the spread between those two. And the reason why is think about it just in the context of this. If I am a lender, let's say that I am looking at Michael saying, I would like to lend you money. One of the decisions as to how much it's going to cost, how much I will charge Mike in order to lend money, is going to be based on his trustworthiness. And I look at Mike and I say, you know what? I've known Mike an awful long time.
Don't trust him as far as I can throw him.
I really don't trust him, but I'm going to lend to Tucker really cheaply.
Mistake.
I'm going to do that. So I'm content to lend to Tucker at an interest rate of, call it, 1% for 10 years because I really trust Tucker. But that's a real 1% that I'm demanding because ultimately the other piece that's going to play into this is, hey, there's a cost in terms of inflation over that length that I need to account for as well. And so I can't just ask Tucker for 1%, and say, yes, I'm going to make 1%. If inflation's running at 2%, well, I lose a little in terms of purchasing power by making that loan. If inflation's running at 5%, I lose a lot in purchasing power by making that loan. And so oftentimes I say, no, I'm going to demand, a spread above where inflation is at the time. So yeah, I might make Tucker a loan at 1%, but it's going to be 1% north of where CPI is, and that's 3% now, so I'm going to demand 4%. And that's basically why the 10-year is where it is, in my opinion. And this can all also change. Like, this is always a fluid situation.
Right.
And so
you've got to get inflation expectations down if you're going to see those long-term rates come down. And there's two ways you can there's only one real way in the short term that I can think of, and it's an end to this business cycle.
Yeah, historically, the only way that inflation has gotten down to the levels that people want is through recession. I'm not saying this is good or bad. I'm just saying it's the historical data that we have. Now, if you look at the period where the spread between the 10-year was lowest compared to CPI, it was the 2010s. Most of the 2010s sucked economically, at least in the United States. Go through it. 2010, really bad. 2011, really bad. 2012, pretty bad. 2013, pretty bad. 2014, getting okayish. 2015, okayish. 2016, pretty good. 2017, good. 2018, great. 2019, great. But it was a
lot of not great.
There was a lot of bad in the 2010s. Yeah. And that's why investors were like, okay, we're pretty convinced that inflation's not actually going to come back in a meaningful way.
Nobody could afford it.
We don't need much of a spread relative to CPI. And so that's why, in April of 17, CPI is running 2.2. The 10-year Treasury was 2.29. Okay, we know it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something that might go somewhere. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk Argentina after this. Fascinating little election coming up this weekend. We'll talk about what it means, the U.S.'s involvement economically, and what can happen and what's actually happening on the ground right after this.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Subscribe to our page and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Cushing & Dolan want to help you avoid costly mistakes when it comes to gifting assets to your children. Their brand new guide, Making the Most of Gifting Assets, shares crucial strategies to help you protect your legacy and your family. Many people think gifting is always a good thing, but if it's done the wrong way, it can create real headaches. Even well-intentioned gifts can cause complications if your children are dealing with financial pressure or legal issues like a divorce. The guide also explains how a major gift, like a home or vacation property, could come with hidden tax consequences that may impact your entire estate plan. Before you make any big moves, arm yourself with the facts in this new guide from Cushing & Dolan. Call 866-848-5699 right now to get your copy. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Required minimum distributions, or RMDs, may seem simple, but there's a lot more to them than just taking money out of your IRA. RMDs impact how much you pay in taxes, and they can push your income into higher brackets. And if you miss one, the penalties can be steep. They also affect how much your heirs actually get to keep, which makes timing and strategy crucial. If you have multiple accounts, it's important to know which ones you can combine and which ones you can't in order to help you avoid costly mistakes. Our new guide, Understanding RMDs, shows you how to navigate the rules, limit your tax burden, and plan ahead for your legacy. Request your copy today by calling 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, the grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
The Financial Exchange is now available every day from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. Stay informed about the latest from Wall Street, fiscal policy, and breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, do a little bit of trivia here. On this day in 1931, Al Capone was sentenced to 11 years in prison. The architect of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre spent half of his prison sentence at Alcatraz. So our trivia question today, what was Al Capone sent to prison for? Once again, what was Al Capone sent to prison for? Be the, 8th person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, and you win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, the 8th correct response to text us to the number 617-362-1385 will win that t-shirt. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Tucker's done.
Done with what?
The week.
I'm glad.
Be the, whatever, 80th person
whatever
with whatever answer you want, and maybe we'll pick you as the winner today, huh?
Buzz off.
With that, we turn to Argentina. So, Argentina has an election that's happening this weekend. And the big question is whether the population decides they want more or less of Javier Milei. Milei was elected 2 years ago with the idea that he was going to come in and reform the economy significantly, and that those reforms would produce lasting, economic growth for Argentina. He did come in and put a bunch of reforms in.
Yep.
And they were very successful in the short term in terms of, hey, inflation dropped from 200% at the end of 2023 down to 32% in September. Now, I know all of us in the United States would look at 32% inflation and be like, my goodness, but remember, everything's relative. When you're coming from 200% inflation, 32 is not bad.
Right. There are also some government employees and contractors who are not terribly happy even though inflation's down, because he did cut quite a bit out of government spending in order to accomplish some of this stuff.
And part of the problem that Argentina is having now is one of the mechanisms that they've used in order to try to keep inflation down is trying to peg the currency to the dollar. The issue is that Argentina imports a ton of stuff in order for day-to-day life to actually happen.
It's a heavily agricultural economy and not much else.
And so when you have a currency that is rapidly depreciating, it creates inflation just by virtue of needing to import stuff in a depreciating currency.
Which we have to explain because, again, we explained it, but it's such a foreign concept to Americans. Right, because all global trade occurs in dollars, and so this is not a phenomenon that Americans experience, right? If oil prices go up,
and we also don't import most of our stuff. Yes, I know we import 30% of the stuff most of the stuff we actually do produce in America.
Right.
It's just there's the stuff 30% or so we don't. But here's the deal: let's say that you are using the Argentinian peso, and you're buying stuff from America. You're trying to buy a light bulb, as an example. It costs $2. If the exchange rate goes from 1,400 pesos to the dollar, which is basically where it is right now, to 2,800 pesos to the dollar, then you need to have twice as many pesos in order to buy said light bulb.
Yep.
Hence inflation.
Which is why there's a black market for dollars and all sorts of crazy things in Argentina.
So, the Argentinian government has been trying to peg its currency to the dollar. There's two ways that you can do this. Number one, you can effectively sell... Again, you think about it in terms of, okay, if the peso is weakening against the dollar, what do I need to do? I need to buy pesos up and take them out of circulation. What do you do it with? Dollars, typically, in order to get both sides of it working. The problem that Argentina ran into starting about a month ago, they're kind of running out of dollars. They're not running out of pesos, but they're running out of dollars because dollars actually exist. They're a real thing.
And part of the reason they're running out of dollars is because Milei his party lost a pretty big election in the Buenos Aires region, and when that happened,
people started trying to sell the Argentinian currency.
Yeah, they started betting against the currency, and so they're running out of dollars to try and keep the peso afloat.
Now, there's a great chart that I found on social media that illustrates exactly what is happening. So one of the things that's really interesting, you do have some American companies that have their shares listed on the Argentinian stock exchange.
Okay.
Don't know why, but they do. Apple, just as an example, is listed on the Argentinian stock exchange.
Okay.
Don't know why, but they are. So, people in Argentina in local markets and local currency can go and buy Apple shares. And for most of this year, the price of Apple in the Argentinian market traded basically in line with the price in American markets, suggesting that there was confidence in that dollar peg because you couldn't arbitrage between them. Since mid-September, what is happening is that in order to buy shares in Argentina, you have to pay right now, as of yesterday, an 8% premium relative to the American shares if you're buying in pesos. The implication is that the official exchange rate that is out there right now between the peso and the dollar is not going to be able to hold.
Right.
Now, you might say an 8% premium, that's a huge difference. Just to give you some context, if you look at this relationship historically, over the last 5-6 years, at one point in 2020, that gap was 50%, suggesting, hey, there's going to be some real problems with the peso relative to the dollar. But again, this had largely come in over the last year or two with Milei with this peg. But now investors, this is the financial sign, or one of them, that investors are losing confidence that the peg's going to be able to be maintained, even with the U.S. backing to the tune of $20 billion in swap lines and trying to arrange another $20 billion in financing.
So, in plain English, the United States government has loaned Argentina's government $20 billion to try and maintain this peg.
And the question is very simple.
How fast will they run through it?
How fast do they run through it, and is there any chance of them paying this back? And markets right now are not really sure they're going to be able to pay it back. And a lot hinges on this weekend, because if Milei's party is able to win the seats that they need to, then you say, okay, Milei retains, the political capital and the real capital needed in order to continue backing this. If not, gosh, there's going to be problems. So it's kind of binary. This money is very likely to either be paid back in full or not be paid back at all. It's not something where you sit there and you're like, well, the Argentinians will pay back like $10 billion of it. I don't think that's really an option.
Yeah, this stuff could be lit on fire rather quickly.
We could be sitting here at the end of next week and it's gone, or, okay, like this can actually work out. So it's fascinating to me what we might end up seeing out of this. I have no idea. Like, I do not know Argentinian politics. One of my best friends from college, his family is from Argentina. I've sat down with him and tried to understand it, and I'm just like, I can't get there. But it's something where by early next week, we're going to have a really good sense as to whether this loan is going to be able to be paid back or not.
Yeah.
Because things get out of control very quickly in Argentina when we talk about economics and debt. You know, it's very much a binary situation. It's not, well, we can recover, 50% of it. No, it's probably going to be an all or nothing type of deal. Let's take a quick break here. When we return, we've got the trivia answer, we've got Wall Street Watch, and then we're talking beef, my favorite, when we return.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. If you're approaching your 70s, you might be thinking about slowing it down, but the IRS is just getting started. Required minimum distributions, or RMDs, kick in starting at age 73. And if you were born in 1960 or later, that number jumps to 75. RMDs are more than just a box to check. They can impact your taxes, your income plan, and even what you leave to your heirs. If not done properly, it could mean big penalties, but getting them right might help keep your money working for you. Our latest guide, Understanding RMDs, breaks down how they work, when to take them, and strategies that may make them less of a tax headache and more of a financial opportunity. Request your copy today by calling 800-393-4001 or by visiting armstrongadvisory.com. That number again is 800-393-4001 or armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The U.S. Virgin Islands aren't just stunning, they're thriving and continue to be one of the hottest spots for vacationers in the Caribbean. New cruise port upgrades, better air connections, and a sharper focus on cultural experiences are putting the islands back on the map for travelers seeking something special. St. Thomas is your cruise hub, known for duty-free shopping and the world-famous Megan's Bay. St. John is pure escape with national park hikes, secluded beaches, and tropical tranquility. St. Croix brings the history with colonial architecture, old sugar mills, and vibrant coral reefs. Visit one island or all three and get plenty of pampering, undisturbed nature, and a vibe like no other, all jammed into one vacation. With easy travel from New England, no passport required, and no money to exchange, paradise is closer than you think. This fall, plan your getaway and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands in America's Caribbean. Visit usvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Mark Vonner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Mark is a career military man, having served nearly 20 years, and we are so proud to have him and his business as a key partner and a presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston. The DAV Department of Massachusetts does incredible work, and it's one of the first organizations that Mark became familiar with after his military service ended back in 1984. As Mark built his company, he knew he'd be giving back to fellow veterans who needed jobs, support services, medical supplies, and so much more. Mark works with disabled veterans every day, and it's one of the key reasons why he's such a big supporter of Dan Stack, the DAV Department of Massachusetts, and the DAV 5K Boston. You can join Mark Vonner and his team and make a donation to the DAV Department of Massachusetts or become a sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston. Simply visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke, a partner with the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with a master's in taxation. And today we're talking about the implications of gifting assets away. Todd, since the estate tax laws are projected to change on January 1st of 2026, significantly reducing the estate tax exemption, does it make sense to gift away assets right now?
You know, it's a big question mark. You have to think of a few things. One, look at the size of your estate. If the exemption falls to $7 million each and you're married, you can still die with $14 million of assets and not have an estate tax. So gifting might not be important from a federal gift tax situation. But the state exemption is only $2 million, so you can only shelter $4 million. So you might want to gift to reduce your state estate tax. However, there's basis to consider. If you give away low basis assets, you're trapping capital gain. And to do that, you might be paying more in capital gains taxes later when the kids sell the assets than you're saving in just Massachusetts estate tax. So you really got to think about whether it makes sense to gift or not. And if you're going to gift, you should probably set up a gifting trust. People might be gifting large assets away and not gift the assets directly to a child. Have them in a trust for the child's benefit and then protect those assets for them.
Educate yourself about the implications of gifting your assets away. Request your free copy of Todd's brand new guide called Making the Most of Gifting Assets right now by calling 866-848-5699. That's 848-5699, or you can request a copy from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, markets are at all-time highs as investors react favorably to the Consumer Price Index posted earlier this morning, where consumer prices climbed 3% year over year, lower than expectations of 3.1%. Right now, the Dow is up over 1% higher, or 536 points. S&P 500 is up 1% or 66 points higher. NASDAQ up 293 points or 1.2%. Russell 2000 is up 1.6%. 10-year Treasury yield is flat at 3.997%. And crude oil up nearly 1% higher, trading just above $62 a barrel. Procter & Gamble reported earnings this morning, beating street expectations, driven by higher demand for its beauty and grooming products. That stock is up 1%. Meanwhile, Intel shares are now up only modestly after retreating from an earlier rally after the chipmaker reported better than expected revenue as demand for its Core x86 processors for PCs recovered. Elsewhere, Ford said strong sales propelled the automaker's revenue and operating income, handily beating street estimates for the third quarter. Ford shares are now up 11%. Deckers Outdoor posted a full-year sales forecast that missed analyst estimates, sending that stock down by 12%. And Target stock is now flat after the Wall Street Journal reported the retailer plans to cut around 1,800 corporate roles as part of an effort to remake its strategy. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch. And in the previous segment, we asked the trivia question, what was Al Capone sent to prison for? That would be tax evasion. Gene from Sanford, Maine is our winner today, taking home a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Congrats to Gene. We play trivia every day here in the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Mike, we got a piece here from the Financial Times. Steakhouse chop portions and raise prices as the cost of beef surges. I'm disappointed.
Pretty expensive in the United States, at least. I love that we track this at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but the average price of a pound of uncooked beef steaks reached $12.22 in the month of August. That was before this morning's CPI report. Beef prices for all uncooked beefsteaks are up 12.7% year over year, up 27% year over year in the UK.
Glad I don't live in the UK.
Yeah. So beef prices are getting more expensive. Ranchers are pretty pumped because they're breaking even and profiting for the first time in a while. But what is Argentina really well known for, Chuck, other than wine?
Beef.
So there's already been a deal announced between the United States and Argentina to quadruple the amount of Argentine beef that is allowed to enter the country at lower tariff rates. And so ranchers aren't happy. I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, I think when you look at this, the question that you get to on it is typically at some point rising prices lead to what's called demand destruction, where people say, okay, we can't afford to buy this anymore, and that's when, supply and demand start to come back into balance and prices, level off. We're not seeing that to this point.
No.
We're really not. And it's disappointing to me that everyone else is not abandoning beef so that I may continue to have as much as I'd like. But it is what it is, I guess.
Cushing and Dolan want to help you avoid costly mistakes when it comes to gifting assets for your children or to your children. Their brand new guide is called Making the Most of Gifting Assets, and it shares crucial strategies to help you protect your legacy and your family. Many people think gifting is always a good thing, but if it's done the wrong way, it can create real headaches. Even well-intentioned gifts can cause complications if your children are dealing with financial pressure or legal issues like a divorce. The guide also explains how a major gift like a home or vacation property could come with hidden tax consequences that may impact your entire estate plan. Before you make any big moves, arm yourself with the facts in this new guide from Cushing and Dolan. Call 866-848-5699 right now to get your copy. Once again, it's called Making the Most of Gifting Assets. 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing and Dolan. Cushing and Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Intel, which has been on a rocket ship up since the announcement in mid-September of a U.S. government stake in the company, reported their first earnings since that announcement. And overall, the numbers are pretty good. But the interesting thing to me is not the numbers in the earnings, but how the stock performs after. And the part that I find notable is, hey, the stock effectively opened up, about 4% today, rose to be up almost 6%. And then promptly fell to the point where it's now down slightly on the day. I don't entirely know what to make of that. It's been trading in a pretty tight range for the last month or so. But
this thing's doubled since its August lows.
It has.
I think that was around the time frame that the questions about the CEO were raised on Twitter, and then the Trump administration got involved initially pretty negatively before announcing an investment into Intel's business. But this thing has been on a tear, and investors, at least today, I guess maybe all the good news is just baked in.
Look, the announcement about the federal government taking a stake in the company was clearly enough to boost the stock in the short term.
Well, it removes the failure risk. Or
I don't know,
removes a lot of it.
Does it actually remove it?
It doesn't eliminate it, but it really reduces it.
See, I go back and forth on this. I'm not sure that it reduces or even eliminates it. I just think it makes it more expensive when if that failure were to occur, it just makes it more expensive because you're going to throw bad money after good. It's going to cost the U.S. taxpayer more if it ever does end up failing, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I guess my point would be if it starts to fail, I think the government does not back away. I think it doubles down. And so, therefore...
That makes me feel good.
Oh, yeah. I don't think this is positive at all. As I said in the earlier segment, I don't think the U.S. government has any business trying to pick winners and losers in a free market. But ultimately, now that they have, I think that's the likely outcome.
The big thing, they're going to have to start delivering on product. And that's been the big problem with Intel for quite some time now, is just they have not been able to execute. And it's a shame because... I think people forget just how amazing Intel has been historically in terms of, I mean, they were the driver of the PC revolution.
Yep.
And then, they got caught up in the tech bubble like everyone else in terms of valuations. And then they spent the 2000s and 2010s kind of reinventing themselves and looked like they were poised for great things heading into the 2020s. And it's just been one problem after another for them for the last 6-7 years
Sure
now.
has. Yep.
And it's a shame because this is a company that it kind of mirrors Boeing in my opinion, where it's like these two companies were like the crown jewels representing everything that American ingenuity could be. And then they just face planted entering the 2020s, both of them. And so, you really want to see hey, can you guys get yourself turned around? And it's going to take more than a quarter.
Sure.
When you're talking about this stuff,
talking about years.
You're talking about years in 2030s when we're finally going to know, unfortunately, how this plays out. You're going to need 5-6 years. But this quarter, again, fine, but it doesn't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. It's Humpty Dumpty's still kind of broken and, trying to figure out where to go. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Paul LaMonica from Barron's right after this.
Hear the Financial Exchange every day from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. Keep it here for the latest business and financial news and the trends on Wall Street. The Financial Exchange is now live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Mark Vonner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. His dedication to serving our veterans has made an incredible impact on his family and employees. And he is so proud to be the presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston.
My name is Ashley Vonner, Director of Operations at Veterans Development Corporation. I wanted to learn the family business under the guidance of my father, Mark Vonner. VDC is more than a general contractor. It's a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business that goes above and beyond for the veteran community. With Mark's military background, serving in the Marine Corps, our company is committed to supporting the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. VDC has been the presenting sponsor for the DAV 5K for many years, striving to spread awareness of this great organization. Working for Veterans Development Corporation has shaped me into the person I am today, and I am proud to be a part of this organization.
Please visit dav5k.boston to show your support today.
The U.S. Virgin Islands aren't just stunning, they're thriving and continue to be one of the hottest spots for vacationers in the Caribbean. New cruise port upgrades, better air connections, and a sharper focus on cultural experiences are putting the islands back on the map for travelers seeking something special. St. Thomas is your cruise hub, known for duty-free shopping and the world-famous Megan's Bay. St. John is pure escape with national park hikes, secluded beaches, and tropical tranquility. St. Croix brings the history with colonial architecture, old sugar mills, and vibrant coral reefs. Visit one island or all three and get plenty of pampering, undisturbed nature, and a vibe like no other, all jammed into one vacation. With easy travel from New England, no passport required, and no money to exchange, paradise is closer than you think. This fall, plan your getaway and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands in America's Caribbean. Visit usvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Turning 70 isn't just another birthday. It's when the clock starts ticking on your retirement withdrawals. At age 73 or at age 75 if you were born in 1960 or later, you need to start withdrawing money from your IRA. They're called required minimum distributions, and missing one can mean big penalties. Taking the RMDs at the wrong time can also spike your tax bill. Even the type of account matters, since your IRA and 401k follow different rules, which could get confusing fast. Our new guide is called Understanding Required Minimum Distributions. It breaks the process down in simple terms so you know when to start, how much to take, and ways to manage the tax impact. Request your copy today by calling 800-393-4001. That's 800-393-4001 or ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Subscribe to our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. Looking for a getaway that's easy, warm, and unforgettable? Discover the magic of the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Just a short flight from New England with no passport needed and no money to exchange. Soak up the sun, stroll along white sand beaches, and feel the rhythm of the heartbeat of the islands. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Plan your fall escape now at visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
As promised, we're now joined by Paul LaMonica from Barron's. And Paul this week has authored a piece titled Microsoft stock has barely budged since July. Earnings are about to change that. Paul, what do you know? Have you seen the future?
Yes, I have seen the future. No, obviously being a little glib there, but Microsoft is going to be reporting results that should show that their cloud Azure business is continuing to gain some big revenue gains, and that's going to help boost earnings overall. And Microsoft hasn't done much since their last earnings report. There's been a rotation into some other top tech stocks. Apple has caught a bid lately. So I think that Microsoft could very well wind up getting a boost if the results are as strong as analysts are expecting. And the stock is reasonably valued for a big tech stock, about 28 times earnings, not super cheap, but not absurdly expensive either.
Paul, how would you characterize the relationship between Microsoft and OpenAI at this point, given that the excitement about artificial intelligence has been one of the major things that's boosted the company?
Yeah, that is definitely something that I think helped Microsoft stock earlier in the year before it's sort of flatlined over the summer. And I don't, going forward, I think a lot of people will be waiting to see what Microsoft says in its earnings release and during its conference call with analysts about future AI applications that the company might be able to roll out in the coming quarters. And I think Microsoft is clearly viewed as being one of the potential AI leaders. Obviously they are spending a lot of money on artificial intelligence, like many other quote unquote hyperscalers. But Microsoft's balance sheet seems to be strong enough to support this type of spending.
Let me ask you about that, because this is something that I kind of wonder about. Like, at what point do investors start to care if that spending isn't translating into actual revenue or profit growth?
Yeah, I think that is clearly an important question. And I think in 2026, you're going to see investors be more discerning. Another story I wrote this week, quoted someone who mentioned that, we are going to be getting to the show me phase of AI beyond the hype. It's no longer going to be sufficient to just say we're spending a lot on artificial intelligence. You're going to have to prove to Wall Street that these AI investments are leading to, if not just reduced costs, hopefully some revenue gains as well. And that is definitely something that you're going to need to hear from Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Meta, those other so-called hyperscalers. But I think it's going to be important, for the investors in the big chip companies, NVIDIA, AMD, even Intel for that matter, if these AI investments aren't really going to be leading to big revenue and margin gains, then those companies might see less spending in the future on AI that could impact their earnings.
Paul, anything else that you might be looking for from Microsoft on their earnings?
Yeah, I think, obviously a lot of importance still about just enterprise spending in general. Our big businesses spending on, cloud overall. I think that's going to be something, there are a lot of other parts of the business that are a little smaller, so they may not move the needle as much. Things like gaming, they bought Activision a couple of years ago, LinkedIn as well. But Microsoft, clearly a very diversified software company, so I think investors are excited about the growth overall.
Very good. Paul, appreciate you joining us, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
It's Paul and Monica from Barron's talking about Microsoft.
Chuck, I've got a candidate for top advertisement of the year.
Oh?
So we're all familiar with the Louvre heist at this point?
The Louvre?
The Louvre.
Uh-huh.
Louvre. The company that manufactures the lift truck that was used in the heist has put out an Instagram ad with a photo of the staircase truck at the scene of the crime. The company's name is Bacher. The phrase is "my way to the top." And it's an advertisement that, when translated to English, says, when it has to be fast, the Bacher Aglio transports your treasures weighing up to 400 kilograms at 42 meters per minute, whisper quiet, thanks to a 230-volt electric motor. I have double-checked a few sources to make sure that this is legitimate. I'm only around 3/4 sure that it is legitimate, but it was reported to me by CNN. I'm looking at a few other sources to see if it is in fact legitimate, but it appears to be from a real Instagram page for the company Bacher. So if so, credit to them for, I think, probably the best
I gotta say,
ad.
it's a bad look.
I hear ya.
I gotta say it's a bad look if it's true. And
nobody's died.
No, but here's there's two reasons why. The first is, in general, one should not be advertising that your products can be used in crimes.
With you.
Because it promotes the idea that this is okay.
With you.
The second piece on the specific crime, look, here's the thing. I'm a history nerd.
Uh-huh.
The stuff that was stolen surpasses like any kind of actual value.
Agreed.
Because they are quite literally like priceless pieces of history that can never be recreated because of who had them at what particular point in time and what they signified. And the problem here is that they're basically just going to be like melted down into whatever, and we can never get that back. And that offends me as a human.
The seriousness of the crime. But I do think it's a pretty funny ad.
Like, you know what I thought would have been a great... Do you remember the Southwest flight attendant that just was like, I quit and popped the emergency slide and left?
I'm not sure if it was Southwest, but yes, I do.
I think it was a JetBlue. It was whoever it was.
Yep.
The company that makes the emergency slide could have been like, whatever helps you get safely, to your destination or something. Like, okay, like we can all see ourselves as like having that bad day and just being like, I got to get out of work.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I guess technically that's probably a federal crime, so maybe that's not a great advertisement. But when you're talking about having, historical relics stolen...
Pushes the envelope too much for you?
It's a little too edgy for me.
Agree to disagree, I guess.
Okay. Let's take a quick break, and we're going to do that for the next 48 hours or so. But when we come back on Monday... It's a busy week. We got a Fed meeting next week. Didn't that just sneak up on us? Plus, monster earnings from tech companies. All that and more next week on the Financial Exchange. Have a great weekend.